Hello everybody. I don't know how my audio sounds, probably peaking really bad, but doesn't matter. It's been a long time. I'm back. As you can see, my channel's been unbanned. I did post one video prior, which was just me at roundtable with my friends, but this is my first official video back. I have a couple more videos in the works. One about the Super Smash Brothers Melee. Ooh, everybody loves Melee, right? Not really, but it's a pretty interesting video. So stay tuned for that. And one more video, but it's in the drafting phase. But this one right here today is my first official video back. It's been a long time since I've seen the people at home. I kind of look like a hippie right now. My mustache has got a little too long. I shaved, so I no longer have a super neck beard. I used to have a super neck beard if you watch my streams, but still pretty bad. But today's video is a video about gaming. MMO gaming. Why play an MMO? Well, because you have nothing better to do and you don't have a job. That's why you play an MMO, folks. So, if you're going to waste your time playing an MMO, which MMO are you going to waste your time on? And that is what today's video is about. A lot of people like to use this as a buzzword. Final Fantasy versus World of Warcraft. But I'm just here to give you my honest opinion on the games, as somebody who has now played through ARR and World of Warcraft Classic. I'm going to give you my breakdown on the things I like about each game and I don't like about each game. And a big spoiler alert, I don't like almost anything about Final Fantasy XIV. Why is this? It could be because of a bias towards World of Warcraft, but I suspect it is more just because the game has a more insanely casual feel, which I will get into. I do not like extremely casual games. If I was going to play an extremely casual game that was an MMO, the options for that are like Wizard 101 and shit, or like Club Penguin or shit. Those are like the casual MMOs, the ones that are super casual. Even way back in the day, I think there was no, that wasn't an MMO. I was thinking about Webkins. Remember, you get your stuffed animal and you go online, you put your code in, you get your Webkins. I think you could play that with your friends. But I think of these games because they're extremely casual for younger player bases and stuff, and they come to mind when I'm thinking about Final Fantasy. Except the problem with Final Fantasy is it's a fantasy action game. Okay? Why is a fantasy action game so incredibly casual? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Another reason I probably don't like it as much is the player base, but again, we'll get into that. So, as you know, I'm not much of a scripter. So I will be putting on your screen here, you're going to be seeing something. It's going to go on your screen. You're going to be seeing what would be Final Fantasy gameplay, and I don't know if I recorded WoW gameplay, but I don't know if I recorded WoW game. Maybe you'll see some of my WoW gameplay, but I did record a lot of Final Fantasy gameplay as I was playing it, and I'd like to start off by talking about my gripes with Final Fantasy and why they compare to WoW. And I've got a bullet point list because I can't script because I'm lazy. So, I would like to talk about questing, because I think questing is one of the more important topics when you're talking about an MMO that's fantasy-based, or just in general, how you level up. The leveling experience in a game is very important. And in World of Warcraft, and by the way, I'll mention now, for full transparency, the World of Warcraft I'm talking about is World of Warcraft Vanilla Plus Turtle WoW. Okay? That's my experience, but I'm generally talking about vanilla WoW because I just like vanilla WoW. If you played a normal vanilla WoW server, you'd have a very similar experience to Turtle WoW. Turtle WoW added a lot of quality of life stuff, some stuff I don't like. But vanilla is the experience I'm talking about, and I'm comparing it to, for full discretion, again, so that people don't misunderstand what this video is about, A Realm Reborn. And why did I choose these two expansions to compare to? One, because I played them both, and two, because they are the respective first expansions of both games. And World of Warcraft came out in some year of 2000, right? Way back when, very long time ago. Whereas ARR launched in around, I want to say, 2013. I'll put it up on the screen here when it actually released. So there's almost a decade of a gap between these two games, and yet I still prefer the one that's older, which is weird. Why would a game that is a decade older have better gameplay, in my opinion, and a more fun experience leveling? Well, that comes down to Final Fantasy's questing, which is all solo content. Mostly all solo content, as in everything you do is almost always alone. What do I mean by this? Well, in World of Warcraft, the questing is actually, if you think about it, completely optional. You're gonna do some quests here and there, but you don't have to do quests. It's not forced on you. You're not the raped. You don't have to do quests. You can do dungeons to level up for experience, which is what I did for a lot of my playthrough. You can do mob grinding. You can do questing. In Turtle WoW, you can even do professions, I believe, and in future expansions, you can do professions. There's a lot of different ways, and if we're talking about future expansions, you can also do PvP later, but that's way later down the line, so that doesn't count. But there's a lot of ways you can level in World of Warcraft, is my point. And you get access to the content by leveling, basically, because as you level, you get more dungeons. In Final Fantasy, that is not the case. Final Fantasy's leveling experience is very railroaded, because they want you to play and care about the MSQ, the main story quest. And how do they do this? Well, they lock all the dungeons behind the MSQ and make you play it. So, if you want to do the dungeons in World of Warcraft, I'll give you an example. You get to level 19, you go do Dead Mines. Whether you took all the quests or not, or whether you did any quests, you get to level 19, you can go to the Dead Mines. For Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn, the first dungeon is Sastasha. This is locked behind the It's Probably Pirates quest, which is an MSQ. So, here's our two examples of players, okay? Both of these, let's just say for the sake of argument, okay? Both players are enjoying side content in the game. So, for the WoW player, that's like he's running around fucking killing mobs and shit, and he just isn't doing a lot of quests. There's not a lot of side content up to level 20 in WoW. But for the Final Fantasy player, he is doing Fates, which I actually did a lot of. I did a lot of Fates when I was doing questing, and I did that for a lot of XP. So what I ended up actually doing was over-leveling the MSQ. So in World of Warcraft, if you hit level 20, you just go do the dungeon. Even if you didn't do any of the quests, you can just go do it. You could skip it if you want to, right? In Final Fantasy, that's not the case. So from doing side content that was not hard at all, I had ended up over-leveling the MSQ by about 10 levels. Because they added the side content into the game, these Fates, other things as well. And they're not hard. They're really not hard. And it's side content. So when you're out there doing whatever you're doing, and you do it, you're like, hey, fuck it, I'll do it. I'll level up. Or I was doing the Hunter's Log. There's a lot of side content in Final Fantasy's leveling experience. But you're punished for doing the side content. And here's why. Because when you over-level the main storyline, you don't get to do the dungeons. Why exactly do you not get to do the dungeons? Because they're locked behind main story quests. So, Sastasha, which is a level 15 if I'm not mistaken, dungeon. I ended up doing it like level 28 or something, because the MSQ locks it behind a bunch of quests. So when I actually ended up doing Sastasha, there's no loot there for me. There's no reason to do Sastasha, but I have to, because I have to progress the main story to do the rest of the dungeons. You see why this would be a problem, is it gives you a very easy way to completely over level the MSQ, but it doesn't let you do any of the content unless you do the MSQ. So this leads to an infuriating problem where you're about 10 levels, 15 levels over the content. And how does Final Fantasy solve this? They solve it with something called level sync. What is level sync, you ask? Well, if you're a level 30 player and you go into a level 15 dungeon, it will sync you down to level 15. Why? This is stupid. It's a balancing mechanic to make the dungeons feel harder. The only problem is the dungeons aren't hard anyway. So if I'm going to raffle stomp the dungeon anyway, why can't I use all my abilities doing it? It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. If I was level 30 in World of Warcraft and I wanted to go into Dead Mines, I'd fucking raffle stomp it. I'd go through and I would absolutely laugh at it. There's nothing in there for me, but if I wanted to do it, or God forbid I had to do it, I would stomp it. So there's no issue there. But in Final Fantasy, that's not the case. You get stuck at level 15 to do the dungeon, and the dungeons don't take that long. That's one of the things about Final Fantasy. They take about 10 minutes. They're very linear, but that also means they're not very memorable. I don't think there's about 2 dungeons in Final Fantasy I think were memorable, and I'll talk about them when I get there. In the entirety of ARR. The entirety. So this is my biggest main issue with the game, I've got to say, though, is just this was infuriating. Once you learn that the MSQ locks almost all the content behind it, and you have to do it, you're going to hate the MSQ. I don't think the story beats in the MSQ and ARR are very entertaining. That's a personal thing. I know a lot of people think it's cool or whatever the fuck. I personally thought it was boring Jap slop. But the fact that you're going to be forced to do it is going to make you hate it. Because I don't want to be forced to do anything in a video game. I want to do it in a video game. Okay? You know why I wanted to do in World of Warcraft? I wanted to do the dungeons. I didn't want to do quests, so I went and did dungeons to level. I didn't want to go hunt down 1,000,000 quests for greens and shit, so I farmed mobs in the Swamp of Sorrows. I found elites that I could kill by myself. That is what I did. And it let me choose the way I wanted to play the game.
Why did it not give me... What the fuck?
Pretty good design, I'd say. Final Fantasy railroads you. It buttfucks you. It says, I don't care how you want to play the game. You're going to do the MSQ because we put all this time and effort into the MSQ. We need you to do it. But that's a problem, because if you don't actually like the MSQ, you don't get to do the dungeons you want to do. So it's kind of fucked. It was kind of horrible to play. And, yeah. Also, getting back to the point of the game is mostly solo, I think that's where I started on, is it wouldn't even be so bad if you could do it with your friends, but it's not something you can do with your friends. What do I mean by this? Every single one of the MSQ, almost every single one of them, is a walk to point A, go to point B. So you're talking to one guy and you're going to the next guy. You don't get to do that with your friends. That's something you just do. Even all the kill quests. Some of the kill quests, if you're in a party together, I'll give them credit for this, like you would in World of Warcraft. If you kill the mobs while you're in it, you get the thing, right? But these quests are few and far between. And then it gets to my second gripe with this MSQ. The cutscene lock-ins. There's many times in the MSQ where you'll get caught in a cutscene which will take you out of the world and put you in like an instanced mob fight. It'll level sync you down like it would in a dungeon. So if you're higher level, you're going to be level synced back down, which means all your gear, all your abilities are gone. Your gear's not gone, but it's synced down to 15, and then your abilities that are higher are taken away. But you are locked in this, and you don't get to do this with a friend because it's a cutscene. And there's so many of these, so they take you directly out of it. You cannot do it with your friend. Contrast this with World of Warcraft. You can do everything with your friends in this MMO. You can do fucking everything in this game with your friends. Almost every single quest except for class quests in fucking World of Warcraft, you can do with your friends if you're the same faction. If you both pick Alliance and they pick a gnome and you pick a human, they fucking take the train over, okay? They do the little gnome start. They take the train, and guess what? They're in Elwyn Forest. They get to do everything with you. They can play the whole fucking game with you. Wonderful, right? Can't do that in Final Fantasy. You are fucking raped. It is a single player experience except for when you get the quests for dungeons in the MSQ, which will bring us to dungeon design. Are they actually good in either game? I will describe now how World of Warcraft dungeons are. Long. They are very fucking long, which a lot of people do not like in Classic. They don't like long dungeons. Zoomers really don't like long dungeons. Why do Zoomers not like long dungeons? Because Zoomers have low attention span. They need their Adderall. Unfortunately, for Zoomers, they're missing out on Kino because these dungeons are long because they're intentionally designed in Classic WoW. There's a lot of dungeons that have either optional paths, right, or optional bosses, or side paths where there's rare mobs, lots of different stuff. What is this in Final Fantasy? Point A to point B. That's the dungeon design. Are there rare and optional mobs? No, there aren't. There's bosses, and you go in a straight line, killing all the bosses. And there's definitely WoW dungeons like this. I'm not going to pretend, but the WoW dungeons like this have trash drops that are actually good. See, a part of the thing that makes loot in World of Warcraft Classic so special is it's leveled for you. You know, it's literally leveled for you. So if I go into Scarlet Monastery at level fucking 30, right, I'm getting the gear. I go in there, I get the gear. That's what I'm there for, right? You know? If I go in at 40, the gear is still 30, right? It's at a level, basically, is what I'm saying. It's set at a level. And it is like this in Final Fantasy as well. But if you'll remember what I talked about earlier, it is incredibly easy to over-level the MSQ, which is locking all the dungeons behind. So every time you go into a dungeon, you level sync down, losing all your abilities, and you're already higher level than all the gear in there. So there's no gear for you to obtain. This is a fucking nightmare. Not only is there no gear to be excited about, there's no variance in the dungeons. There's no optional paths to explore. There's nothing to make the dungeons fun. Well, now we can talk about, well, what about the boss mechanics? Are the boss mechanics good? Fuck no. They are not good. In World of Warcraft, a lot of the bosses are tank and spank. We can think of some different ones that are very simple in Classic. Like, let's think of Herod in Scarlet Monastery. What's Herod's big mechanic in Armory? He spins. Walk away from him when he spins. Okay. Not very hard. Not very difficult. Not that fun. But he drops his fucking Ravager axe that was making him spin. It's iconic. So when you see him do that spin, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then he drops his fucking axe that makes him spin. And it's crazy if you get it, right? In Final Fantasy, the mechanics I can literally describe as circles on the ground. That is 90% of the mechanics of the game. And the circles on the ground aren't cool. It's not like you're seeing a fireball hit the ground, right? And the fire is what causes the circle. No, it's a literal indicator that is a fucking circle, and then the projectile hits the circle. So you walk out of the circle. It's brain dead. It's fucking brain dead. And you can say that about a lot of WoW mechanics too. Like, let's think of which ones you not want to stand in the stuff. Like Uro in AQ, right? AQ 40. He's got the popcorn that chases you around, right? Like, you obviously don't stand in that, but there's a little more involvement in that because I'm running away from it. You know, I'm running away from this thing that's like chasing me, so I don't instantly die, which is a raid. To, you know, it's not fair with these dungeons, but the raids are exactly the same. Spoiler alert. Or the trials, not the raids. These are the 8-12 mans or whatever the fuck. But the fucking circles on the ground are just not fun. It's boring. It's lazy. The design is not good. None of the bosses were hard. None of them posed none of them had interesting mechanics to them. Like, there's a lot of bosses in WoW dungeons that have interesting mechanics. Like fucking Rivendare and Stratholme has his Shadow Bolt volley, so the range go over there, and then you need an AoE guy to deal with the skeleton. There's like lots of bosses in WoW that have a lot of unique mechanics that you learn by trial and error, or, you know, by being a bitch and looking it up. I learned by trial and error, thank you very much, by getting fucking shit stomped a couple times when I first played. But yeah, the whole point is you're never going to have any trouble, and in total, in my Final Fantasy experience, I can tell you that I died 2 times up to max level in ARR. I died 2 times. 2. In World of Warcraft, I can't count the number of times I died. I probably died like fucking 50, maybe 60, I don't know. But that's like a very steep jump in difficulty. Dying 2 times in your max level experience to your 50. But it's just a miserable dungeon experience, and the loot is not good because you're out leveling the loot, as I said. The bosses aren't good. They don't have memorable mechanics. Almost nobody who even plays the game can fucking remember any of the ARR bosses. Like, they don't remember them. There's like only a few that are even cool. None of the dungeons themselves are very aesthetically cool, except for like 2, which are the Hawk Manor, which I thought was actually kind of cool. It's kind of like a haunted mansion type deal, which was kind of visually cool. And then the boss at the end is like a vampire lady or some shit, some sort of anime vampire lady or some shit, which was like okay, I guess, but she was a pushover. Not hard again. None of the bosses are hard. And then the other was like the Temple of Karm, I think, which is like a temple where you have to kill these stone heads, and you have to push the heads onto platforms, which was probably the only like actual puzzle in any of these dungeons. Any sort of puzzle or interactive mechanic in any of these dungeons. And one of the bosses actually had a one-shot mechanic that our healer was not too keen to tell us about. So that was one of my deaths, and then one of my other deaths was early, was just a healer going AFK. So those were my 2 deaths. I mean, maybe I had an AFK death or something, but I cannot recall. Those are my 2 deaths right there in not World of Warcraft. Apologies, Final Fantasy. So overall, the dungeon experience, and I'm just going to wrap this little segment up of the dungeon experience, absolutely goes to World of Warcraft, because Final Fantasy does nothing right when it comes to this. It doesn't do loot right. It doesn't do bosses right. It doesn't do layout right. It does nothing right when it comes to dungeons in ARR. In ARR, I know you're typing in my comment, Shadowbringers is awesome. In ARR, the first expansion. First expansion comparison, yeah, fucking ARR is the shittiest thing you will ever play. Alright. So, yeah, I didn't really write that much, but as far as player base now, I will talk to you about this. And this is a more This is a little based alert. Trigger warning for the libtards in the audience. Trigger warning if you're libtarded. Fast forward like 3 minutes or something, or whenever the fuck I'm not talking about this. As far as player bases go, and I've noticed this, MMOs are just a wide net in general. A lot of people play MMOs. That means a lot of different people play MMOs. So you get people from all different walks of life. However, Final Fantasy has a really bad RPer problem. And when you get RPers, you're getting furries and troons. Final Fantasy has the most degenerate fucking player base ever. And it's not like there's no furries or troons on World of Warcraft. No, you'll find them. On Turtle WoW especially, you'll find them. But the vast fucking number of them on Final Fantasy it's like impossible to count. Like, it's their game. It's their fucking Mecca. Like, the Muslims go to Mecca and the trannies go to Final Fantasy XIV. It's their haven. And there's even this thing that I learned about when I was doing a little trolling. Okay? That's how I know about this, okay? I was trolling somebody, and they brought it up, okay? So don't flame me. I don't have one, okay? I don't even want to talk about it. It's so fucking sickening. There's this website called flist.com, okay? I think it's called flist.com, okay? And it's like a secondary extension for like RPers on Final Fantasy XIV. And I shit you not, it's just a list of like the RPers' fetishes and shit. It's like a MySpace page for their fucking Final Fantasy character that is just a list of fetishes. And we just like me and my associate, my good friend Kako, who I played the game with, we found some of these people's fucking F list, and it's like the most deranged shit ever. It's like they have like their fart sniffing fetish on the fucking F list account. And then there's this thing called adventurer plates, which I actually like. I think they're cool. It's kind of like a I don't know if you've ever played Monster Hunter, or that's probably not the best example, but it's like a profile tag. It's your picture, a short little thing about you, and it's like an ID card, right, for fucking thing, and you can customize it. And it's kind of neat. It's kind of cool, right? But if you go to, like, any of the main cities and you just inspect any random bunny person or femboy character or whatever the fuck, all the characters look the same, right? It's all fucking bunny people. You're going to get LGBT, T for T, looking for ERP slash W, I think, slash W. I don't know. You see the most sick shit ever. It's always the most deranged perverts on this fucking game. And, like, I don't think I've played with like I said, many weirdos on World of Warcraft, okay? But it was always, like, counteracted by, like, the really funny, normal gamer people. So it was like a balance. It was like a kind of a balancing act. In Final Fantasy, there is nobody, like, almost nobody on that game who is not a, like, fucking sex pest pervert, like, and, like, not a funny one either, like the diaper fur type, you know. So as far as player bases go, it's a no fucking brainer, dude. Do not ever try to convince me that the Final Fantasy population is not all troons. I had a preconceived notion before I came in that that's what it was gonna be, because all my World of Warcraft friends were like, this is fucking the gayest thing ever. But I put it aside. I was like, you know what? It's an MMO. It can't be that bad. I played World of Warcraft. You know, I had to deal with my share of strange people. But, my God, let me tell you, it's horrible. Don't front with me. So, what did I not do in Final Fantasy that would make this, like, a slightly biased review? And this is why I didn't talk about rating. I did not talk about rating. Why did I not talk about rating? Because I haven't done the rating of ARR. Like, I haven't done the main raiding, and I've cleared all the raids in World of Warcraft Classic. So I did not talk about the raiding, which is the end game experience, a lot. I did some of the end game dungeons, a lot of the end game high end dungeons, and I finished the MSQ for ARR, and I can tell you the high end dungeons are not fun. The trials are not fun. They are all very easy. And oh my god, I didn't write it down, but it just clicked for me. I know exactly what I'm going to talk about now. Something that is very personal to me and pisses me off so badly. Class design, okay? This is like super autistic, right? To care about class design, you'd think. No, it is not autistic. And here's why. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to break it down with my autism wizardry why it's not autistic. Okay? The class that you pick in the game, there's 3 roles in almost every MMO. Tank, healer, DPS, right? In Final Fantasy XIV, the class that I picked was Paladin, which is a tank. I have experience tanking in World of Warcraft. I mainly DPS'd, but I do love tanking in World of Warcraft. I've got a lot of experience with it. I enjoy doing it. I've tanked some raids. I understand how it works. Okay. Most of my tanking experience was on Prot Warrior and Prot Paladin. So, my favorite class in all games, period, for the people at home, is Paladin, because I'm a moral fag, heckin' Bible thumper. You know, I love the class fantasy of a paladin, the warrior of good, you know, a man who stands up against evil, who wears plate armor, shields his allies, or strikes down evil with the two-handed claymore, right? And who has, like, holy divine powers. Like, that's cool to me. I like that idea. So when I picked Paladin in Final Fantasy, and I knew it was a tank class, I knew there's no DPS option. In World of Warcraft, this is another thing I like about World of Warcraft over Final Fantasy. When you pick a class, there's 3 specs. 3 different specs. So every class in World of Warcraft is essentially 3 classes. It's basically 3 classes. In Final Fantasy, that's not the case. When you pick a class, there's 1 class. There's no variation in how you build it, basically. It's that class. It plays exactly like every other one of that class. There's no customization in there. There's no side grades. It's straight number upgrades. And there's no variation in how you do it. So if you pick a class you don't like, and you level it up, and you're like, it's going to get better, it's going to get better, you're fucked. You are fucked. And here's why. Because, while yes, you can go level another character, if you do not enjoy a class, there's no speccing out of it. You have to go level another fucking character, basically. It's the same character, but you have to level up again. And they do give you XP rings and stuff to make the process faster, but this shit is terrible. Tanking is the least fun thing to do on Paladin in Final Fantasy XIV. And I'm not going to go too hard on Final Fantasy XIV for this specifically, because as my autistic nigger friend Catco has told me, sorry, I'll censor out the N-word there, as he's told me, dude, you only played 1 fucking class. How can you say they're all bad? Because I watched my other friend play Dragoon, which is a DPS class. He's like, dude, you only played tank. How can you tell they're all bad? And almost all the classes have the exact same sort of rotation, which is a 1, 2, 3. You press your 1 key first, that powers up your 2. You press your 2 key, which powers up your 3, and then you do it over again. And then you have abilities that mix in that go off your GCD. That's your rotation. It's not fun. As a paladin, you have almost no fun abilities. I mean this, literally. You have no fun abilities. I'm going to break down the rotation for you here. Maybe I'll put it on screen right now. But the rotation is literally, and I shit you not, for single target is 1, which is your, what is it called? I don't know, it's the little stab. It's the generic stab. and then you have 2, which is I think Rage of Halcyon or something, and then you have or Rage of Hollow's your first one, okay, and then 2, which is your follow up, and then 3. So you go 1, 2, 3, and then you press your off GCD ability when it's off GCD. That's your single target rotation. That's all you're doing. There's no burst involved in this. You will never lose threat because threat is not a real thing in this game. You're basically never going to lose threat. Because remember, everybody's level synced in dungeons, so nobody's going to be doing more damage than they're supposed to. So you're never going to lose threat in a dungeon. It's just not going to happen. Threat is not real, so there's no hassle when tanking. Tanking's the easiest shit ever. And your rotation is not fun. You're not trying to maximize your damage output or your threat output with it. It's literally 1, 2, 3. And they give you like a million cooldowns to use for like the tank busters. But most of the time, you will never need them. There's a couple tank buster moves you'll pop a cooldown on, like in the later dungeons. I think the Ultima dungeons and shit, like the later ones for the MSQ. But like for the most part, you almost never have to pop your cooldowns. You can just pop them when you want. They give you like 20 of them. But oh my god, it is the most boring thing ever. Compared to tanking on a paladin in World of Warcraft, where you're like an AoE god, and you can run in and pull like 100 mobs, and it's just goated. It's so fun. You press conk, you fucking Seal of Righteousness, and if there's undead, you Holy Wrath, and you do all this crazy shit, and you have Holy Shield, and in later expansions you get the fucking Avenger Shield. Like, I mean, that's not fair. Final Fantasy again, because later expansions don't count. But I'm just saying, like, holy fuck, dude. Pressing 1, 2, 3 with no variance, no random chance, nothing to make it fun, and seeing the same effects all the way up until you're level 60 is not fun. I can explain to you why it's fun to play a Ret Paladin, which is what I played, or a Prot Paladin in World of Warcraft. A Ret Paladin is really fun. It's like a slot machine. When you swing your weapon, you want a slow two-hander, right? There's like a casino effect that goes on, like the random chance that you're going to crit, and then you're going to, you're going to get Vengeance up, and then you're also going to proc your Seal of Command, which is going to do a bunch of damage. So you can burst. You can be really swingy in combat, which is really fun for PvP, which is not a thing on the free trial, which is what I played for Final Fantasy, but everybody agrees Final Fantasy PvP is not a thing. It sucks. But that is really fun as a DPS. I did play a tank in Final Fantasy, so comparing the tank spec instead of the DPS that I'm explaining is really fun because it's like gambling. The tank spec is really fun because you get a lot of AoE and stuff. You come around and you AoE everything. In Final Fantasy, your AoE rotation is 2 buttons, and the 2 buttons are not particularly fun. One is circle slash, basically, and the other is another circle slash where you jump up in the air, and it's the same effects. You don't have a consecrate, which ticks on the ground, and you get all the enemies and stuff. You just have circles. You do like I don't know if you've ever seen a Legend of Zelda spin, where Link spins around. That's what you do, and you do it 2 times. So my rotation for AoE is 5-6 or RT or whatever. It's really, really bad. It is not fun. They do not give you fun abilities. And while I said it was not fair to compare the first expansion of each, it is fair to note that by the time ARR had come out, Cataclysm had already come out, and Cataclysm fucking nailed class design. You say whatever the fuck you want about Cataclysm, right? Oh, it's the death of classic WoW or whatever. Cataclysm fucking nailed the class design in World of Warcraft. All the classes feel fun. They all do something unique. Not all of them are good. Okay, they can't all be good. They can't all be winners, but all of them are fun. They all have something they do. The classes feel good. They have a good design. Final Fantasy's ARR, that came out almost the same time, has the worst design for a paladin ever. And I can't speak too much on the other ones. Like I said, I'm not going to speak too much on the other ones, but how they butchered Paladin, which is my favorite class specifically, I just can't forgive them for it. It's so fucking obnoxious. And Dark Knight is locked behind the Heaven's Ward, which you can get to on the free trial. But it is not the first expansion, and yeah, you have to level it up all over again, which is annoying. So I'm not really gonna count it right now. But as far as class designs goes, with my limited experience on class design, I'm gonna tell you right now, Final Fantasy fucking sucks. And I'm actually gonna do a cut real quick. I'm gonna do a very quick cut, and I'm gonna actually tell you how many classes are in each game. So I've looked at it here, and as I can see here, World of Warcraft Classic has 9 classes, and Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn has 8. What's the problem with this? Oh, WoW Classic actually has 9 times 3, 27 different specs you can play in fucking Classic WoW, versus Realm Reborn has 8 specs you can play. There's no variation. When you play one of these 8 specs in Final Fantasy, that's what you get. It's the same as everybody else, same progression, same button pressing. It's all the same. Okay? Which is not exactly fun if the classes aren't fun, because we've already established that one of the classes is total dog shit, not fun to play. Paladin is unfun. So when somebody tells me the other 7 are actually great, and I've seen gameplay for Dragoon, which doesn't look good. So two are definitely kind of iffy. You know, 1 is really bad, and we know that at least 2 are iffy. I don't know if I believe you when you tell me the other. I can't count right now. How many did I say there was? The other 6 classes are great. Like, I don't believe you. I just don't believe you. I think you're bullshitting me. So, in closing with that, in my very subjective opinion on this one, class design, total fucking horseshit, dog shit. The classes don't even come close. So what is my final verdict on these 2 games? Before I give my final verdict, allow me to say some nice words about Final Fantasy XIV. Because I kind of just lambasted the fucking game the whole time. Let me tell you something I like about Final Fantasy XIV. I liked the Hunter's Log. The Hunter's Log was a cool little idea where you go kill enemies. It like kind of made you explore the areas a little bit more. And not really explore, but you had to go like hunt down the monsters and kill them for a little XP. Which was kind of raped, because if you did the Hunter's Log, you'd out-level the fucking game, but it was kind of fun. It was a cool idea. I liked it. The music, not the Final Fantasy slot music, not the Jap composer music that I actually didn't like very much. What I mean is the guy playing fucking George Michael Wham in fucking, what's this stupid town, the desert town? Ul'dah, yeah. So if you go to Ul'dah, or like one of the, I don't think the major cities, I don't know if they play it in the other major cities, but you go to one of the major cities, there'll be a dude, you can play instruments in Final Fantasy, and they basically just play covers of real life songs. I actually found this to be like the most entertaining part of the whole fucking game, was just like sitting there listening to this guy play fucking George Michael Wham in Final Fantasy, or like, you know, whatever the fuck, like Careless Whisper. Like, that was literally like the funnest part of the game, where he'd be playing like a Frank Sinatra song, or just anything. You take requests. He'd even play like fucking stupid stuff, like if you like rap music or something if you wanted him to. Yeah, so that was kind of fun. Anything else I really like about Final Fantasy XIV? No, I don't like the races either. I'll take a brief moment to talk about a couple other things I don't like. I'm just going to go lightning round here. I don't like the races. All the races are stupid in Final Fantasy XIV. You have Dragon Femboy. You have Bunny Femboy. You have Child. You have, like, Goliath from D&D, which is, like, whatever. It's basically Goliath from D&D. I don't know what the fuck they're called. They're the big guys with the rock jaw. Human, short, human tall, and fucking, I think that's it. Like, you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but the races are not that good. And most people just play a bunny girl in the game anyway, or a child, because, like I said, this game is filled with sex pests. So, yeah, I would advise don't play this game. Don't play it. That's my advice. And my good friend is going to leave a long paragraph in the comments. He's one of my bestest friends in the whole wide world. This video goes out to you, Catco. As you're watching this video, I can almost guarantee my friend Catco is currently grinding some inane bullshit in Final Fantasy XIV that he insists will make him more powerful, so that he can do the shitty content that nobody enjoys. If you're gonna play an MMO, I highly suggest that you play World of Warcraft. Not retail World of Warcraft, a private server. Okay, that's my humble opinion, okay? Not naming any private servers. I advise you play a private server, though. You could play retail Kata if you want, but, you know, you gotta get some friends. Get some fucking friends if you're gonna do that. So if you're gonna play an MMO, don't play retail World of Warcraft. Don't do that. Maybe play Kata retail if you want to give Blizzard your money. Play a private server. That's my third advice. Don't play Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn. For all the people who love Final Fantasy XIV and are sad that I just lambasted it, I didn't play the other expansions. Maybe you guys really did find gold under that pile of shit that you dug through. You dug through the pile of shit and you found gold at the bottom, and you're like, see? Look at my gold nugget covered in shit. You don't have this. Yeah, so if that was you, and Shadowbringers was a shit, good for you, man. I'm glad you stuck it out. But from the perspective of somebody who has played like 2 MMOs, this is the worst MMO I've ever fucking played. And I played a little bit of EverQuest. I played Dark Age of Camelot. I played the old ones, bro. The ancient ones. Not that much, but still, I would rather play them than Final Fantasy XIV. And this video is getting a little long, so I'll finally wrap it up. If you are upset that I lambasted Final Fantasy XIV, that's fine. Go ahead and leave a dislike on the video. Leave a comment that's really angry or something. If you are happy that I lambasted this shitty game, go ahead and leave a like on the video. A like. Thumbs up. Really helps the channel, guys. Hit that subscribe button with that notification bell on. And stay tuned for my next video, which will actually be good. It won't just be 50 minutes of me shitting on Final Fantasy XIV. It will be me talking about Melee. And I've been planning this video for a couple months, so stick around for that one, even if you hate Melee. I promise it'll be interesting. And with all that said, everybody, I'm sorry I wasted so much of your time shitting on Final Fantasy. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you soon with more videos. Have a good one.
You know, like, the US government covered up what happened there, and I was like, yeah, I know. I'm a knower.